Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Culture of Paint. On tonight's show, we're going to take a look at what's caught our eye over the last couple of weeks in the miniatures painting world. For the main topic, we're going to be chatting about tips and tricks that we've found when it comes to prepping competition entries. And we'll close out the show, as usual, taking a look at what the hashtag paint cultists have been up to. Now, Culture of Paint's aimed at a mature audience, and we might use explicit language and discuss adult themes. Now let's talk about paint. Okay, and we are back. I think good evening, everyone. Is the chat in there? The camera's working. They are. Right, good evening, everyone. I'm Henry, and joining me, as usual, is Andy, or are Andy, Matt, and Rich. Good evening, gents. How are we?
G'day.
G'day.
Not too bad.
Nice. Have we got any of the Aussies in, actually? Have a look on the chat. Usually waking up around summer, around now. Very good. Yeah, we made it to only 2 weeks since the last episode. So this is what we're trying to do. So keep on track, keep firing them out. Thanks ever so much for the feedback from the last hobby hangout show. I think that's what we're going to have a go at for a while now. So every other week it will be, every other 2 weeks rather, it'll be the hobby hangout, and then there'll be a topic show like we are doing tonight. Adam's saying Andy's rocking his heresy cup. Oh, super ducting. Is it there? Nice.
No.
Very good.
I'm traitor now. Gone Sons of Horus, can I? So.
Oh, fair play. Fair play. Looking lovely. Good reactions to that video as well. Right, let's have a look. What's caught our eye over the last couple of weeks? Because, as usual, there's been a ton of good stuff coming out.
So,
fire her up, Matt.
First up.
So, right. Now, those of you that have enjoyed the Armageddon series of books by Aaron Dembski-Bowden. He did a bunch of spin-off ones, and you've got chapters like Black Templars, obviously they're really popular at the minute, and then you've got the Celestial Lions. This is one of the characters from that. This is, let me get the name right, Akeni Dubaku. Love this conversion. Like, I'm running pretty cold on Primaris Marines at the moment, if I'm honest, but the size of them does make them just so much better for converting, doesn't it? Like the way he's been able to pinch all these cool bits of kits from all over the place, and it still looks like this cohesive thing. Nothing looks out of scale on it, out of proportion. Yeah, big fan. Cool paint job. I dig it.
Yeah, really
Very
good
cool.
paint job.
I
Saw this one as well.
like the use of the lion in the chest is very cool.
That's off Stormcast, isn't it? Yeah. We're just, it's just great. It's just really nice to see. Just taking perhaps one of the lesser known characters, and bringing them up to date. You know, we often see quite a lot of Dantes or Azraels, or I don't know, some other popular ones that I don't know about. Sicarius, what's other 40k ones?
What's the guy with the Crimson Fist one?
Oh yeah, Pedro
Pablo.
Yeah,
Pablo,
Pablo,
whatever.
Pablo
That's
Fist.
so much
Yeah.
better. Pablo!
But yeah, it's just cool to see one of the other characters, and yeah, they got a great story. I don't know what their story is in the current timeline, but they were kind of like wiped out by the Inquisition to a couple of men, and yeah, it's a cool story. And if you've never read the Armageddon series of books by Aaron Dembski-Bowden, and you like some sort of just good 40k stories, yeah, I highly recommend them. And someone on YouTube a couple of years ago did this amazing, I don't know what you call it. I suppose it was an animation of them. Just really, really cool. I don't know if it'll still be on there with everything that's gone on recently, but yeah, check it out. Give it a Google, like, I don't know, ADB Armageddon cartoon or something like that. I'm sure something cool will come up. But yeah, that's my pick. Peter has just mentioned, is Rich, is your weapons collection growing?
Nothing new at the moment, I don't think.
That's all right then. It's
Just
just
wider
more in camera.
Just
Yeah.
see more.
Yeah, I've got space up here for something, so I need something
Yeah.
that sits along here. So if anyone's got any suggestions of weapons, do let us know what would look good sitting just above my head right there.
Proper Viking axe.
A mace or a morning star.
I've got a big axe just behind me. Like if I move, like you can see the axe already there. Sword, warhammer.
You got a warhammer, haven't you? There somewhere.
Yeah, there's a warhammer just over there. Short sword. There's a bow on the ceiling.
Nice. Brilliant. Brilliant. Anyway, before we go down that rabbit hole, what's up next, Matt? Oh, cool.
This was my pick. It's a proper little conversion. It's I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of it, but it's an Astral Claws Chapter Master.
It's not Lufthuren, is it? Is it meant to be?
I think so. I didn't know how to pronounce it. Yes. Possibly
Interesting.
Yeah, the Loyalist Lufthuren or whatever you say it.
Yeah.
There's just really nice green stuff work. You know, it's not a super easy one to pose with that kit. It's quite mono, that one. So done a good job of that.
It's cool.
Yeah, the head's cool. Where's the head from?
Not too sure. It looks like a Grey Knight something, perhaps.
Yeah, that's a cool head. Nice bit of conversion stuff. I saw they've announced some what they call blade guard. Is that what they call
Blade guard? Yeah,
these guys is one of these Warhammer Day minis or something. I think this one is significantly more dynamic. So yeah.
Yes. It's a bit more of a pose.
Oh, here we go. Sorry, Adam's just said in the chat, Richard Boylan's Hell's Reach. That's what you're searching for on YouTube if you want to check out the story.
Nice.
So yeah, very cool. It's from the Deathwatch accessory sprue. Thanks, James. The head.
Good call.
Chat's on fire today. Thanks for your help.
That's right. This is quite fun, isn't it? Having the chat.
Chat's killing it.
Yeah. James was keen for you to have an English longbow on the wall, but that was probably before you mentioned that you have one on the ceiling. So, good suggestion by Baz. Why don't you put a shield on there?
Ooh, that's quite a good idea. I could get a little buckler with a spike.
Yeah. That'd be rad.
That'd hang there quite nice.
We'll do a special episode. I'll go around with like a handy cam, and we'll do like into the mind of a murderer or whatever, you know, and into the
Rich
Netflix
before he
special.
Nice pick, Matt. What's up next? Yeah.
So this is by my very good buddy Paul. I still haven't done any Krieg yet, and I keep seeing them everywhere, and I keep wanting to do them. Also, it's for some reason whenever it starts to get cold and get wintry, I always fancy doing an Imperial Guard army. I have fucking no idea why the correlation between that is.
Is that like? I do know what you mean though. Like, I'll be walking the dog sometimes, and I don't know whether it's a smell or whether it's the weather or whatever. But it will often bring me back to like not safe space armies, but like nostalgia armies or something like that. Yeah. And for me, it's dwarves and guard. They'll just be what I'll ponder as I'm walking around.
Yeah. With the winter, I'll probably. Yeah, true. I'll probably end up watching like a Fury again at some point, and then I'll be like, a tank army that's set like in the spring or the autumn or the winter would be cool. But Paul's done a cracking job of this. Like cohesively as a unit, it's really good. I love his bases; they're great. It's the first time he used oils as well, giving that a shot, which is awesome.
Great.
I just think they look lovely. I'd love to play a game against them and kill team, and I think he's just doing an absolutely bang up job. I asked him to paint him some for me, but he said no. So
I do love the bases, man.
They're great. Yeah, so that's my pick. Just because I've actually seen that much in the last couple of weeks that I've like really, really liked. There's been some bits, but nothing that blew me away. So I just saw these and thought, they're fucking great. So good on you, Paul. Well done, Thor.
Great colour scheme.
Yeah. If you want to know how to paint those, check out the Cult of Paint How to Paint Krieg.
I'm living through Paul vicariously. I did one and he did the unit. This is the sad reality of making tutorials.
Chat's loving the guard stuff. I think we'll have to do some in next year, Rich. We'll have to do some guard projects.
Yeah.
What was that amazing old white dwarf? That's completely skipped my mind the name now. Warwick Kinrad and someone else did it. They built a whole massive like Zaragrad. That was it.
Oh yeah.
We talked about that ages ago. One of the first shows, I think we were talking about like our favorite armies or something like that. That's mate. When they re-release them in 2050 or whatever it is,
we can do it then.
Never.
Nah, never gonna happen, but it's all good.
Yeah, I can't wait to paint some of these Krieg minis.
I know. Same.
Wait, I've got one on the desk ready to do up as a test model for some militia for Astral Claws to go. So cool. Very, very excited, but hopefully I can talk about that project in a few weeks' time. We got anything else, Matt?
That's it for today.
Nice one. Right. So if we haven't got anything else, we may as well jump straight into here we go. Meme of the week. Right.
Let me guess what it is. What's been the popular memes this week? What's come out?
We missed Buffman. Somehow we didn't have an image for that. The greatest Warhammer meme of all time. We managed to miss. Oh no, I do know. I think. Or do I know the meme? I'm not sure. What is it? Come on, stick it out, Matt.
Hit me.
Yes. It's very good. So this is the new Remus Ventanus model, which I think looks fucking rad. I will be painting my version with the helmet on. Not the bear.
Baghead him.
But yeah, I am. I think it's a wicked model. It's it's a great character, great bunch of stories. You know, is it 5 years late? Yeah, it is, but still a cool mini. Looking forward to picking up and painting. I love those square spiky studs. It's all over.
Anyone seen the original of this meme?
Mm-mm.
It's literally this exact wording where the woman is, but it's an MMA fighter. So he's like shirtless in a cage, and she posts it, and he actually comments on it being like, "Hey," and she's just like, "No," and he's like, "That's literally me in that picture." It's the best.
Very good. See, Warhammer can just appropriate anything.
It is a Tinder versus reality, isn't it? This artwork versus the sculpt.
Definitely a catfish. Definitely a catfish.
It's a shame as well because there's some. I mean, Handsome Remus Ventanus was. If I remember right, I think it's that book, whatever it was, 6 maybe, no 6, 7, 5 in the Horus Heresy Black Book thing. And I think it's the first time we saw these sort of sketched. I don't know what you'd call them, really, portraits or whatever of some of the characters. I mean, I think the famous one is that Ben Kingsley Thousand Sons character.
Yeah.
I think they started in this book. It's just really cool. It's just another way of. I really like it when we get a new art style coming.
Aren't they supposed to be like a copy of is it the iconographs? Is what they used to take photos or whatever of the Space Marines? What were they called? They used to send them out. Yeah, the pics.
Yeah, right.
What were they called?
Game Boy camera.
Pictoras or something.
Yeah. Something like that. They used to go out with the Space Marines. I think that's where the idea came from. That's what they're supposed to look like.
Okay, cool.
I think. Please don't rip me to pieces. If
They do, because you have that famous one where it's the Morning Vow in I can't remember which book it is, and you have the woman that takes the pict of the Morning Vow when they're taking the robes and all that.
Really cool. Okay, cool. Olatom, Keeler, one of the two. Yeah.
Keeler, that's the one.
Nice. Oh well, made a great meme anyway. Even if
it really did make a great meme.
Even if the head isn't necessarily one of the
Remembrances. That's the one.
Remembrances. That's it. Good times.
Okay, so let's crack on with the main topic then. And for tonight, we thought we'd, particularly given that certainly 3 of us are very keen on painting competitions. We've all entered them, and one of us wins a lot of them. So we thought it'd be quite good to just start what will probably be a series of shows periodically. You know, not in a row, where we're going to talk to various sort of noted competition painters, sort of pick their brains about things as well. But seeing as I said, we've got one of the best with us, it'd be remiss not to talk to Rich a lot tonight. So it's I thought Matt had a nice idea with sort of kicking it off with what goes into planning a competition piece, everything from choosing the mini, what colors you're going to do, all the rest of it. And I thought we could talk around that. We've all entered them. We can all talk about what we decided on when we enter these competitions, things we maybe fucked up, things we wouldn't do again, or definitely will do again, and just have a good chat around it. And I know a lot of people in the chat and a lot of people that follow us are all keen competition painters. So yeah, let's crack on, really. So the first question Matt came up with, and I'm going to ask his questions because you're way more into competition painting than me, so I'm just going to ask questions and leave you lot to talk about it. Planning, choosing a theme or a miniature to paint. Where's it come from? Matt, you can go first.
So a lot of times I find everyone always says I'll paint the latest thing because they're more interested in it, but I don't think that's the case.
That would be Golden Demon specific, would it?
Golden Demon specific, yeah, but
it's the worst myth.
Yeah, I would say find a mini that you can stand to look at for a long period of time. And you're not going to get bored of it, because you will probably hate it at some point.
Interesting.
I'd be devil's advocate though and say no matter what you pick, you probably get to that point, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Pick one you really want to have finished, right?
All right. So if either of you painted one because you thought it would be a good one to paint, as opposed to you really wanted to paint it, have any of you three done that?
No, I think one of my biggest rules would be pick a model you really, really love and don't think of any tactics. I think then you're already on to a winner there. But yeah, no tactics. You've got to love the figure. If it offers some advantages because it's got surfaces you're good at, then that's cool. But there's not a chance I would pick a figure I'm not really into, even if it was I don't know, tactical or easier or something like that. Give a better chance. The most important thing is you've got something cool on the shelf after it, regardless of the result. So yeah, I think yeah.
Would you say as well, with just the amount of minis available to us now, G-Dub and elsewhere, that actually you were saying there, or if there's one that can show off my strongest techniques on and things like that, you can probably find one, right?
Yeah.
It's not, it's not quite as it was, say, 10 years ago or whatever like that.
I think that going back to Matt's point is it's like kind of what he said, but changing the words is not picking something too big that would take too long, because like Matt said, you're going to have to look at it for so long. So pick at something you can stand. And I think depending on the type of painter you are, you've got to pick a different size project. Like I've got Teclis right here, and I love it so much. I might even think it's my favorite Warhammer model, but I don't think I can do it for Golden Demon because I don't think I've got the perseverance to do the wings. Because you've got to paint every one of those feathers properly, right? So, and I think some models could present a particular feature that can just be hell. So I think for Selenar, just wings. And it's I would paint Selenar differently for competition than I would just for me. So maybe that's when you pick this model's for me and this is for a competition. Because I like it when you paint feathers with just big blocks of color, like not defined. But I think if it's for Golden Demon, they would want to see all the feathers edge highlighted, all the detail in there, and therefore I don't think it would be a good pick. So yeah, slightly on a tangent there.
No. I think that's great. And do you think that's? You said not too big a project. I mean, for me, like as someone who just more enjoys painting competitions, as in looking at the results rather than entering them. Like on the whole, I think I love units and dioramas. I think they tend to be my favourite types of categories. You, so Andy in particular, so I'm just trying to think, you've done that Blood Angels squad, which was sort of like a very simple diorama base, wasn't it?
Squad presented one of
yeah,
his presented squad,
yeah.
wasn't it?
And then you did that small Tau battle suit one. But you've tended to I think you tend to gravitate more towards one or two figures on an interesting base as opposed to a large diorama, right?
Mm.
And is that what's your reasoning behind that in general? Is it just the figures that's what you want to do, or is it more that you find it? Yeah, what's your reasoning for that?
I don't know. I think ideas is a lot of it. Like, if I don't have a good idea for a diorama, I'm not going to force it. But at the moment, I'm brainstorming dioramas and finding it really hard. So I guess something like, if you're like, well, I love Blood Angels, I'll do a squad of them. It's easy. When there's diorama, you have to have a real strong concept and you have to be really into it. If you just pick a figure out the box that comes with a great base, you just do it, right? But the diorama stuff, I think, is more difficult. So it's definitely, I agree with you. I think it's the most interesting categories and what the one I want to focus more on, because I've done too many straightforward categories like vehicle, squad and stuff like that, and I definitely am more interested in different things. Like, I think when you've been painting for loads and loads of years, you need to do more than paint a figure sometimes, because just to keep your own personal interest going, as opposed to any kind of tactics or anything like that. So yeah, it's a tough one, but I definitely think the categories that would take my personal interest would have changed over the years. And I think recently Warhammer Monster is probably the one I want to do the most, and that is simply because of how good Age of Sigmar big monsters are. Like, I've got Teclis on my shelf and I've got Kragnos built, and I'm literally like picking, I can't decide which one, but they're both amazing. And you could do Croak, and there's just so many cool things for AOS Monster. So
I still feel like Croak got missed, you know. I've not seen enough Croaks in comparison to all the other monsters. I just feel like whatever it was an off week that he got released or something.
It was very close to Kragnos, though, wasn't it?
Was it Be'lakor, something like that? Them three came out, didn't they, within like a couple of weeks of each other, didn't they?
Yeah,
Kragnos is amazing, but he's not as exciting as the rest, and I absolutely love him. But yeah, tough.
Problem with Croak is he gets a bit lost in the pictures they used. I find like it's not as visually impacting.
Yeah, well, he's got the visual impact, but there's not focus on him. It's like, this is a cool piece, but it's not like the YMCA Teclis, is it? Where or Kragnos for me is probably the one I'm thinking is like my favorite one, and he's just so cool, such a big unit. So yeah, that category I think is more appealing than ever, really, just with how good the models that are coming out for it are. And actually, even 40k large, I don't feel the same way. There's not as cool big models of 40k coming out through AOS. So, yeah, I think it's just what's coming out at the time, right?
Phil in the chat's just saying, I know it's another YouTuber channel, but Ben Comments makes some great points when he talks about his rattling tank. We're quite happy to talk about all sorts of YouTube channels on here. We love them. And Ben Comments in particular, whatever he says, you should go and listen to. And read, because he's a lovely man. He's a phenomenal painter, and that rattling tank we featured it, didn't we, a few episodes ago? We were talking about it. Incredible. But yeah, I'd like to hear what he had to say about that.
He does have he has a planning video about it, which has he goes through like all the details that he was thinking about at the time, and it's really in depth and really good.
Nice, cool. Oh well, I'll try and find that then, and I'll link it. I'll link it down in the.
Might be a Patreon only video though.
Okay, I'll do a bit of hunting. Let's see if there's a couple of other questions just before we start on the next one. Let's have a look. Silas is asking, how do you pick which competitions to enter? Any advice for someone who would like to get into competition painting but still has a long way to go? Where would I go about finding out about smaller competitions? Matt?
So,
Rich?
Yeah, so for me, if you are starting entering competitions, I wouldn't personally enter just a smaller competition to start with. I would enter the biggest one possible to start with, just because that's going to give you the amount of inspiration you're going to get from that sort of massive amount of fantastically painted models. I think will be really beneficial. It will kind of open your eyes a little bit to the depth of quality that there is at competition level, and it'll help you, I think, realize what you need to do and how far you need to go with your painting to if winning a competition is something that you want to do. I think the more exposure you can to different sorts of painting and different sorts of entries, I think the better. So I would go for a bigger one just to start with, and also it's more fun. You get to meet more people and see more cool middies and interact with more people, I think. But that's just my personal take on it.
I don't think it really matters what one you enter. It's just like, you don't go there with the intent of trying to win. Just go with the intent to do the best thing that you can do, and then build from there.
Yeah, like, event, right? It's just an event. Get an event.
So essentially what it says is get a ticket, give yourself a deadline, give yourself something to hit, right? That's interesting. I don't know where you're based, Silas. That might we might be able to suggest a few.
I would say scale model challenge if I could pick any one competition though. If someone's never been to a competition, my easy choice would be scale model challenge in the Netherlands, and that's because it has a great tier system, and Golden Demon is amazing, and if you can go to it to enter or just look at it is amazing, but to enter it's great to enter, but it's only 3 winners per category, so it's always going to be difficult psychology wise. And scale model challenges is so great because it's enormous, so it feels like you're part of something huge. You've got a few thousand in entries, but they've got a tier system which is beginner, standard, and master. And the really cool thing about this is if you're not sure, what tier to go in, you start beginner or start standard, and if you win a gold, then to go to the next category next time. But it's just brilliant. It's a really nice system, and you can get some advice off someone. Like I get asked, not all the time, but sometimes, what should I go in, and a lot of the time it's go for standard category, because if you get a bronze or a silver, you stay there. If you get a gold, you do master. If you get nothing, you have another go, and it's just a really nice way to do it. But the most important thing is it's an amazing environment. It's huge, loads of stuff to do. So yes, it's a fantastic one. So I would, like you guys said, I would say go to any competition you can. Location's a big thing. If you're in UK, it's a no-brainer to do Golden Demon, Salute, Iron Skull, any one of those that you fancy. But if you really want to make a great trip and go to Europe, then SMC. It's just so good.
And Luca in the chat there, hi Luca, says don't forget Monte San Savino, which I think is a bit of a favourite, right, among the
Monte's
competitive painting nerds.
But SMC is easier to get to, is the reason I would say. There's less of a barrier to entry, so I think they're very similar because they're open category and things like that. But SMC is just more accessible. So if I was going to say you've never been to a competition before, if you could only pick one for your first competition, I'd say SMC, and then every time after that, then I would say Monte San Savino. They're both very close together normally, very similar style, both amazing. But yeah, I just think scales for a first timer I think is a little more, just because it's in Amsterdam, it's easier to get to. Well, not Eindhoven, you fly to Amsterdam, so it's easy. Don't have to do the epic drive, do you, Rich?
I didn't mind that drive too much, mate. Land in Pisa and drive through Italy is not too bad at all.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely. I mean, we're really looking forward to doing some shows in person, and there will probably be when we attend the painting competitions when they come back up, that sort of thing, and hopefully we can get some footage when we can get out to Monty again.
We'll do a road trip, then we can show everyone these shows, and
be good fun.
when we started this channel, we've not been doing shows, so it'd be great to.
Yeah, it's definitely on our to-do list, isn't it? That was from
once we can leave the country.
Yeah, right. Right, let's get back slightly more to do with prep again then, just because, as I said, I think we're going to do quite a lot of these shows about competitive painting. So if we try and keep it a little bit sort of focused topic wise, but by all means, please ask whatever in the chat to do with it. There's a thing you'd written, and I think I know the answer to it, but when it comes to deciding on the piece, is it always going to be the model led, or is there an element of not necessarily testing a new technique? Because I'm fairly sure that's a competition is not the time to test a new technique out, right? Or certainly I would assume you would want to refine it a little before you enter a competition with it, right? But if you've, say, been working on a particular style or a particular technique for some time, does that influence your entry at all? Do you think, what can I show that off on? Whether that's because you're just really enjoying it, or whether because you think actually, I mean, NMM is, I think, the obvious one where people think of a non-standard painting technique, right? Which, again, if you go to a lot of these European painting competitions, it's probably more the standard way of doing it. But yeah, what's the sort of reasoning with that with you guys? Rich, how about you? Because you've done quite a few GDs, but you've done some of these other shows, right? These non-GW shows.
Yeah, I've done a couple. For me, it depends. It depends. Like, I do think technique is important. Like you said, if like we do like non-metallic metal, if you want to try that, I think picking a model specifically to try that on, I think can be a good tactic, because it's it's a one-off model. You don't have to worry about doing an army of it. You can spend a lot of time on it, and you can enter it into a competition. I think there's a balance. I think you do that if you're willing to take the risk on it. Again, if you just want the experience and to get better at it, that's the perfect way to do it, is to spend a lot of time on a model, enter it into competition, and get feedback from the judges. So if you want to improve that technique, I think it's a really good way of doing it. If you're in the market to try and win something, if that is your goal, to go to a competition and win something, I don't necessarily think trying out a new technique would be the way to do that. So I think sticking something that you're very good at, or something that you've practiced a lot, and that you're very happy with and you can refine and you're really comfortable with, is the better way to do it. I mean, I'm not saying you should necessarily go to a competition to purposely try and win, but I mean, a lot of people, let's be honest, a lot of people do want to win at competitions. That's a lot of the reason why a lot of people do go. For me, for a time, that was the reason I went. I enjoyed winning Golden Demon, so I wanted to keep doing it. So I picked things that I thought, right, I can paint that well, because it's got more chance of winning.
Okay, right. So yeah, so let's dig into that a bit more then. So, and you've mentioned it before, like that you got you enjoy getting caught up in that for a while. When we were having the sort of 3 or 4 demons a year kind of thing, it almost gave you like one a quarter to focus on, right? And pump stuff out to us. Was that, so you were painting there purely to take home the trophies, right? Which you did, plenty of. If you were to enter one now, and I know you're saying that's not where you're at anymore, do you think your attitude would change with that now when it comes to prepping the miniature?
Yeah, I think so. I think before I kind of fell into the pit trap of, I've won a Golden Demon, this is really good fun, I want to win another one, and then kind of spiraled a bit to I just wanted to win them. It got to the stage where I was entering things that I wasn't necessarily happy with, but I thought there's a chance it might win something, so I'll enter it, which is a terrible way to look at competition painting. You should enter something that you're really proud of and that you've enjoyed. And if you've got an option of entering 6 things that are okay, or one thing that's brilliant, I'd always stump for one thing that's brilliant. But I struggle with that, because as a painter, I struggle to focus on projects for a long time. So for me, for competition painting now, knowing that maybe there's one Golden Demon a year, that would be really difficult, and I would put a hell of a lot more time and effort into the thought process of the project and planning the project than I would have in the past. So if I was to do it now, I would spend a lot of time researching and thinking of an idea and chopping it up and thinking of different ways of doing it before I try to commit. Because like you said, you've got one a year. And if you want to enter one a year with all those brilliant people that are going to enter it and want a chance of winning it, it's going to have to be something pretty special. So you've got to have a very good idea for it.
Interesting. Matt, you've followed the competitive scene, and obviously with your incredible spreadsheet work on this beautiful book, which I hope everybody's received and has been poring over. Are you starting, or did you, during all that research and everything, have you noticed particular trends when it comes to miniatures getting entered, or could you see any patterns within that?
There's probably quite a few. I haven't really dove into that too much, but obviously, like the big one is obviously Space Marines. It's the most entered miniature ever. Yeah, there's no beating that, to be honest. It's interesting.
Okay, but so carry on, please.
I was just saying, it's interesting to find, like, on, I'd say probably Golden Demon specifically, is how the style has changed. It's, say if you look at like the early European GDs, they were very painterly style miniatures. The palettes were a lot more pastel-y. There was more non-metallics. It was like light sources and all that sort of stuff, multiple light sources. Whereas in the UK in the early days, it was more heavy metal style, solid edge highlighting and stuff like that. You'd have the odd one which was very different, but generally they were all sort of that style, the UK. And then in recent years, I don't know whether it's just because the demons in Europe stopped, but all that style from the early demons in Europe seems to be now the UK one.
Yeah, you mentioned that. That's something I think we could have a lot of fun with chatting about, actually, but not right now. I want to pick up on something you just said then about there was the occasional one that would stand out because it was different. Where's the value come in that then? So let's say I'm a good painter, but I'm wanting to enter the competition. I know I'm going to improve, right? Because I'm going to try my hardest. Let's take that as a given, all right? But I want to stand out, whether that's by winning or whether that is by standing out because it is different. Perhaps it won't win, but that doesn't necessarily mean it won't be any less deserving of interest from people that attend the show, right? Not just the judges, like people that attend the show. How important can that unique theme be? Is it? I mean, don't be different for different sake, but there has to be someone taking things in a slightly different direction, doesn't there? Like, or is it just trends? Like Andy, have you approached a piece and you've gone, oh, everyone's doing gold in this way. I am specifically going to do gold in a very different way, and use that almost as a tactic, and that's influenced the model that you've picked for a competition.
Sort of with this Blood Angel squad, like in not quite what you're saying, but that I thought, well, I'm going to paint it in the style I'm enjoying at the time, and that always changes actually for me. And going back to what we were saying earlier, and I didn't think it was that tactically sound. I didn't think it would give me an advantage to win, but it was at the time. It was how I liked Marines to look, with a lot of scratching and damage and all this stuff. And that's why I was so proud to win the bronze prize, because I didn't feel it was particularly catered towards sort of the judging style and stuff. But the other reason I really wanted to do squad, because it was the first time you could do it on a base like this. And I thought, well, this is the first year where you can do a squad on a freestyle base, we'll call it. So yeah, that's kind of the reason I did that. So it's kind of what you're saying, I guess. What's the question again?
I suppose no, is there ever the thought of
do something different on purpose?
Do something different on purpose to enter. And I think that's a really good example, isn't it, this Blood Angels one for you? Because I know how chuffed you were getting bronze for this one. And when we consider what you've won before this piece as well, like, I think you're right. This wasn't the way we were seeing Marines painted, was it? If we consider the demon I think it was the year before this that was like Golden Demon Leviathan and Golden Demon. Like it was like every other model was a Leviathan in vehicle, and you know every marine model was painted in that. When we're beginning to see that evolution of the heavy metal style, weren't we? Where there was a little bit more blending, a little bit more rendering and stuff, wasn't there, on some of the shapes? But these were different. You know, it's like when Gareth did that squad.
Yeah.
Gosh, 6-7 years ago, something like that.
2015.
Right. There was a completely different take, really, right, on what we'd seen. And I wonder if it's easier to do that with minis like Marines that we do become used to seeing in a certain way when the volume of them is so great.
Well, if you do a different take on it, then you've done a pretty good job, because it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. ABD.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, yes, it is, right, except that actually perhaps it isn't that hard if what you're doing is just going against the trend. So if we see enough Marines, right? So we see 100 Marines every show, there's going to be a trend with it, right? So if I go, do you know what? Sorry, I'm going to try and paint. Right now, I'm like, I'm going to try and paint how they painted Marines 10 years ago, but execute it, you know, really, really well, and all the rest of it. Might be that you'd automatically stand out because you weren't doing. You know, I always think when I see
that they call in games.
Say again.
It's the painting meta. It's like what they say about games. Watch. What's the paint meta?
But I always think when I see Max Verlage's stuff, sometimes it will pop up in White Dwarf or on Instagram or whatever, and his, you know, I don't think it's any surprise, right, that now a lot of heavy metal stuff you can tell who the boss is, right, and whose style is influencing what's going on there. But it was, his stuff always stood out to me a few years ago because we were seeing more painterly maybe takes on Marines and stuff like that, with lots of NMM and lots of this, that, and the other. And then Max would just paint this crisp, clean, you know, bright, lovely Marine model, or it's always the Skaven, are the ones I always think of, and immediately it stands out because it's a different styles, as you say, what the meta is. So do you think there's value in that then when it comes to prepping a piece, like going against the meta?
Well, I think Max, just to conclude on your point, I think that Max did that I can't remember anyone else doing earlier, is you had sort of we'll just say the heavy metal style for simplicity. So people that painted very clean, and then people that painted painterly. But I think what Max did is he did lots of texture but sharpness. So he did texture but with precision, because he brought his like heavy metal quality, but all the leather had all this texture. And I think you might people that would paint lots of texture, but it was fields of reels and it was a bit sloppy, to be honest, like not refined. And then you had the people refined, it was very clean, not a single piece of battle damage. I think one great thing, I think it was 2013 or 14, maybe later, I don't know, whenever Max did those gutter runners, that was texture but with sharpness. And then you're like, okay, so now we're incorporating both those things, and then you're starting to get less of those two schools, and I think that's kind of cool. So I think that even though you might not be able to take a completely unique take, like you're saying, like go in and go against the grain, what you can do is, and it's hard to innovate, but take elements that you like from some different styles, and don't pigeonhole yourself in one, but maybe try to encompass a few cool elements, and that could make a piece stand out, I think.
Nice. That's cool. This is a nice chat. I'm enjoying this. So yeah, unique takes on things. Right, color choices. Excuse me.
Red, always red or yellow.
Oh well, would you say it's worth steering clear of certain color choices or steering towards other ones when it comes to comps? What do you think? And this is taking it as a given, right, that you're going to be able to find a mini that you like and you can paint in that color, because there's a billion miniatures and you're fine. So
it's all about like what you can do with it, right? Because you'll personally be able to be better at other colors. So you're going to have certain skills and you're going to be better at at doing certain things. And there's that thing for like, oh, the bright colors will stand out more, but then like very bright can be a bit tasteless, really. It's like, where do you find the balance of standing out and then also having subtlety? And that's the same between how do you balance being artistic and technical. So I think the color choice, and for me, I would just go back to what's the mini you really care about and what color is he? And it doesn't actually, you don't have to think tactics on colors and stuff like that. But I remember Rich's favorite and my favorite entry was his killer can, and that's every color. That's yellow and blue and green.
I think we've got a slide of that, haven't we? Am I right?
Yep. 2 seconds.
Get that up.
Yeah.
There he is. Got that.
That's every primary color, which I would, if someone said, can I do something green, yellow, red, I'd say don't do it. But Rich has managed to pull it off quite coherently here, so fair play, mate.
Cheers, bud.
It's great.
With the color choice, I think it just fits into your idea around that project. So like, I would never paint a marine like this, like one shoulder pad blue, one arm red, because it doesn't fit in that narrative. Whereas for me, I specifically wanted to paint orcs because you got to do that. I got to paint lots of different colors so I wouldn't get bored of it. I got to paint them nice and bright, which is a lot more fun and a lot more striking, but it still fits within the narrative of how we see orcs, specifically around old school ones. So I looked at some of the old school artwork for the old killer cans and how bright and obnoxious they were. And that all those little bits seemed to fall into place so that it ticked all the boxes for me. It was a fun model. I love painting walkers. They're my favorite thing to paint. I could be super, super bright with it, and I didn't have to. It allowed the freedom to not really worry about the colors. Like, I remember I didn't plan to paint them that many colors. I got to a certain point. I went, right, I'm bored of yellow now. I'm going to paint some red. And I painted a bit of red. And then I was like, right, I'm bored of red. I'll do the blue bit. And that was fun. And then I was like, right, I've got to get it finished in 2 weeks. I'll paint the other leg black because it's quicker. But it still sits together because it's that narrative of the orcs is that they, it is ramshackle and it is a bit of a mess, so that it is bolted together. And for me, that's what ties the whole thing together. But again, it depends on the project. Like if you've got certain colors that you think you paint better at, and you've got recipes that you've worked on and you can work really well with, do that because you're playing to your strengths. I mean, do that if that still fits within your idea for that piece. But for me, the idea that I've got in my head is the trump card. So like, if I pick a color and I relate that to what I want to do and it doesn't fit that narrative, then I don't pick that color, because the original idea in my head is what I want to achieve. I try not to change it too much just to make it easier to do. If I'm changing it too much, it won't look how I want it to in my head, so I probably won't like it as much. So it's probably not the right time to do that. Maybe think of something else. But yeah, that's how I think about it.
Pick the style you want to go for. So if you're like, I fancy something bold and bright, and then that, like you said with the killer can, it suits it because it's ramshackle random colors, and you can do that. So maybe you go, I want to just do something really bright and mental. Which is actually, I'm painting Lizardmen at the moment because I was doing lots of drab battle damage Marines, and I was like, I just need to paint some colors that are really bright, so I chose Lizardmen. So maybe that's where you if you just fancy a palette of a certain type, and then pick the model from there. So but also if you pick 2 entries, you could do one mental and bright and one really subtle, and it's just really nice to mix it up, isn't it? So
interesting. It is that's a belter. Why do you like walkers so much? Why are they your favourite?
I don't like painting skin, so anything that's skin is out. So I don't want to do that because I don't enjoy it. I love painting edge highlights. It's my favourite thing to paint, whether they're messy or neat or whatever. That's my favourite thing to do, is edge highlight things. I like the size. I think it's a really good size in that you can add pretty much every element that you want to. You could keep it simple and it'd still look good. You could add freehand and it'd still look good in flags and things like that. It gives you enough space on the bases to make a small enough but interesting enough base. I think it's right in the middle ground of you can do anything you want with it.
You can't get bored of, isn't it?
It's small if you don't get too bored of it. You can tell a story with it. and they've always just been my favorite. Every like dreadnoughts and things like that have always been my favorite models, just from the fluff and the story and how they look. But yeah, I've painted God knows how many walkers in my time, but they're by far and away my favorite thing to do.
Nice. What about you, Matt? What's your favorite? Like, because you're working on the Grot tank still, correct?
Yeah,
October is still.
October's still in full
There it is in the
effect.
background.
Right.
Is it? Oh yeah, there it is. Oh, well, you can't see with that thing, but yeah, it's there. I do like tanks. Tanks are fun. Tanks are.
I agree.
Yeah, I did my Macarius, and it was the easiest and most enjoyable model I've actually ever painted.
Get that slide up. Let's have a look at her. And you can guess the next question. So like, why?
Though, that is the last model I completed.
Sorry, won't tell anyone. Like, what's so yeah. So what got you through this then? What was the prep idea for this one?
Well, I knew I wanted to do a tank, and
because
I was reading a lot of Iraq stuff.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, Macarius at the back. I was reading a lot of the Siege of Iraq stuff.
Brax, yeah.
And they had a lot of stuff about Macarius tanks in there. So went on Forge World and picked one up.
Buy our tank.
Yeah.
Subliminal message.
Yeah. Immediately.
It's not even that subliminal, is it?
It's not.
Buy it now.
Tank now. Best tank. Buy free.
And then immediately when it arrived, I was just like, oh my God, this is a hunk of resin. What am I going to do with it? And didn't fit together at all.
Obviously.
So that was the hot air gun out to try and put it together. That was the worst part of the thing, putting the thing together. Did not enjoy that.
Wow, it's so good. It's got an inbuilt gatekeeper, isn't it? That's what's great.
Well, so I'm going to interrupt ever so slightly, Matt, if you don't mind, on this one. I'm not going to talk much about my painting competition stuff, but the resin kit things is interesting and really killed my, whatever the word is, burgeoning competitive painting sort of momentum. I did that one tank and really enjoyed it, but it was predominantly plastic. And for the next year, I wanted to do a squadron of 3 Blood Angels Land Raiders, and I wanted to do them in the old color schemes where you would have like the yellow multi-melter and things like that, but painted in the style I like painting.
Classic.
Right? And the idea was start off as a squadron. If it goes badly, you can always, finish one and enter one. But the idea was push myself, to try and do a squadron. And I ordered 5 in total from Forge World, and I couldn't get one decent build out of it, because of the resin and putting it together. And I at that time I was already an experienced modeler when it came to working with resin kits. I came into the hobby via resin kits, 10, 11 years ago, whatever, and the wrong choice of entry, I guess, actually completely derailed it ruined that Christmas. I can remember Christmas Day, I was still trying to work on it to get it to a place where I could do something. And it just, so that was a massive mistake I made. Whereas actually, I liked painting tanks because it was a big canvas that you could enjoy playing around with on. What I should have done was looked around for predominantly plastic kits, I think, because it just would have made that initial process that even if I didn't love the kit, maybe I only liked that plastic kit 9 out of 10 and I like the resin kit 10 out of 10. At least I get the plastic kit done. And I felt the problem is because I'd done well in that previous competition, I wanted to improve, right? So I wanted to, rather than improve on one area drastically, I just thought, right, you're going to 10% everywhere, right? So you can try and get better at everything by about 10% and see how you get on. But it just wasn't possible. And these resin kits, I was like, that is not a good enough quality now for me to spend the 100, 200, whatever hours on it, because it's a bit of a turd to start with. You know, I can spray it gold, but that's about as far as I can go with it.
I mean,
so I don't know. Like,
one,
did you? Yeah.
You have that bottom bit, which is like the bottom of the tank sort of, and then the top thing is like one piece, and it kind of sits into it. But it was like a good 1.5 inches bent off, and it was just, it took hours to get it to like force it back up and stay there, because like resin does have a bit of a memory, so it will always try to bow back down. But yeah, eventually it did go, but I don't think I'd ever pick a resin kit for a competition again.
It's hard, isn't it? Because if you do, some of the resin kits are amazing, and back when I was doing the competition painting, I did do a bit of both, specifically around walkers, because you've got fantastic resin walkers. But I do have the same thing. Like, I remember thinking of a project that I wanted to do, and then when I had the model was so challenging from a build perspective that it killed the idea dead, because it was just so much hassle to try and get it to a place where it was usable to the level. And I think also, like you said, Henry, once you've got a bit of practice in it, and once you've done a few comps, you kind of know if it's going to work or not from earlier on, which is a blessing because you've got the experience. You know, if you're looking at a model and you're thinking, if you're already thinking, I don't know if this is good enough, odds are it isn't. So yeah, if you're doubting that from the start, then yeah, it's probably not the right model to use.
In a similar vein, sometimes you can buy a kit and sub-assemblies that you want aren't possible, and that can kill a project. Right. And that's down to your personality as well, because it does depend on how many sub-assemblies you like, how comfortable you are at sculpting halfway through, and stuff like that. But I've definitely bought kits and gone, I really don't feel comfortable painting that all together, and gluing it after isn't happening. This isn't a competition piece. Like instantly bought it, put it together. Nah, can't do this. Whereas some kits, like Sigvald, are unbelievably good for some.
Yeah, you loved that, didn't you?
You can do as few or as many as you like, and it's easy. It's like it goes together logically. You know, like.
Did he come out in lockdown, Sigvald?
Well, everything did.
Yeah. I was just trying to remember when he came out.
Last year.
He must have done, because you did him on Patreon, didn't you? I feel like we'd have seen a lot of NMM Sigvalds if we'd had a competition.
Might still see a lot of them.
So, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but I feel like
I nearly wanted to do the second one. I debated doing it again because I did mine in a week, and I would love to have spent 3 months on it. But it's so perfect for me that I kind of would like to do it again, but I probably won't.
See, I would never. That's one thing that I would never do from a competition point of view. And I mean, maybe you didn't do the first one as a competition, but that's something that me and you have spoken about before. Like when you completed something, there was something that you maybe weren't quite happy about. You were quite tempted, you said before, to do it again. Like the idea of doing that to me is like, it's a massive pass. I couldn't imagine trying to get up the motivation to paint something again once I'd finished it. Like it's hard enough for an army, but let alone for like a competition level. I could never do it.
But I feel like I've done a test run. I love everything about it. The color scheme is perfect for me because it's my favorite colors. And I'm really happy with what I did in a week. And it's like, what could I do if I spent longer on it? But at the same time, life's too short to do the same model twice, so I probably wouldn't. But it was almost a shame for me because
unless it's a space marine.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's a shame because it's such a good model for me, and there's not one single figure that's come up that I thought that's for me as much as him, really, because I'm still waiting for one to come out that makes me really want to do it for a competition, you know, for AOS single figure anyway. That's what I'm struggling with.
I know what you mean, though. Like when it comes to, I mean, I've said a few times that competition painting isn't something that I'd be particularly interested in anymore, and maybe that ship's sailed. I'd never say never and all that. But when I was painting, I'd never painted a Titan before, and when I was painting that Reaver that I did, I remember painting it thinking, this would be good for competition. Or if I was thinking maybe a Titan would be something that I could do for a competition, because it's so different to anything that I've entered competitions, and it still ticks all my boxes in that it's a walker, it's in my wheel range, it's all the things I enjoy doing about it. And it was so different that to everything I'd done before. When I was painting it, I remember thinking like, I couldn't, you're painting a project or you're doing a project and you can't stop thinking about it, and all you want to do is that, and you find yourself spending so long on certain bits that you would never normally necessarily do that on. That was the closest I've come to painting a competition piece in years, because I just enjoyed it so much. And that's when I stopped. When I got to the stage where I stopped doing competition pieces, that's why I stopped, because I just wasn't enjoying them anymore. But yeah, that would be fun. Maybe I'd do a Titan. Maybe one of those new shiny Titans.
Just paint Titans.
We talking?
They're amazing.
Titanicus or big boy Forge?
Oh God,
Titanicus. Tiny massive.
I changed my mind after I've done a Space Marine. I'm not starting a Titan.
I don't know, man. I got a hankering again after seeing that Titan walk the other week.
I want to paint a proper Titan.
Yeah, maybe that'll have to be something for next year. Next year as well. Okay, so last thing then, when it comes to the prep side of things, I think it would make sense to stick it in this section. I want to talk about stuff like the process itself. So what references you surround yourself with, sort of how you actually go about the painting, whether you schedule it in, whether you do whatever. But I feel like that's the sort of next stage, as it were. That's like the next conversation for us to have. One thing Matt noted down in the notes, what about when it comes to things like conversions or kit bashes, or basically changing the base model? How do you think that comes into play? Like when prepping for a competition, is it that sort of make it a little, like, I'll always love ever so slightly tweaking a mini, just because I feel like I've seen it painted in the boxed way, so I want to enjoy doing it slightly differently. How about that when it comes to competition? Do you think there's, I don't know, is there a huge risk in doing that?
Depends on the conversion.
You don't need to do it, but if it adds to your piece, then it should do it. But I've seen people not understand why they didn't win, and they've been like, but my conversion's amazing, but this is a painting competition. So conversion can make the piece better because it can change the composition, tell a story more, make the model look cooler, whatever. But you don't need it to win, and it can hinder you if you do a bad job. So I think that it's all about your vision, really, which is what I said at the start, is you just got to do what you want to do. And if what you want to do is a model that's in a book you can't buy, or recreate a pose, or make a jewel so you need to repose it, whatever it is, you do what you need to do to create your vision. But conversions aren't compulsory. It's just what's going to make you happy, I guess.
I do think they can help to make things a bit more unique, or to grab people a little bit, especially when you look at some of the more common entries that you get in competitions, slightly tweaking it, not like reworking it, but just like you said, a slightly different pose, or manipulating a little bit so you'd see it from a different angle, I think can add another layer to it to grab people's attention. But like Andy said, it's got to be backed up then by the painting, and the quality has got to be of equal to if you just took it out of the box and put it together. So for me, I never.
Maxime, isn't it? Like
that's
just what you said is that Maxime's troll is exactly what you just said. Is it gives you a different spin on it. And I get bummed out now because I look at that troll and I forget that that pose isn't in the box, because I'm like, oh, that pose is the one. So I think you're right that it can make you look at a model differently. But his sculpting and painting is the next level. Right?
Yeah, but the thing, my sculpting's terrible and I'm not very good at it. So I would never enter anything I sculpted, or really, I mean, my killer can is a bit of a kit bash, but again, you can get away with it being shoddy because it's an orc, so it still fits into that narrative. If you were trying to create or kit bash or sculpt like a Space Marine dreadnought, it would need to be very, very neat and very clean, because that's the aesthetic you associate with it. And that's why I never do it, because I would enter it thinking, well, I'm not very good at this, so if I'm entering something for the purpose of winning, and I wouldn't enter something I wasn't very happy with because it's not very good.
Yeah, you look at the high-end winners, like just popped into my head that Lan's Nagash in the chair, which is like one of the best ideas. That's like, if that idea comes into your head, that's got such a good theme and narrative, then yeah, you got to convert it. But if you're like, I want to paint something really banging, then out of the box, it's definitely a hard balance. And like you said, Rich, the Abaddon I did recently, converted it, perfectly happy with the conversion, but I couldn't enter it in a competition because they'd look and see it's a bit ropey, and it's absolutely fine for a project, but for a competition, I wouldn't do it. So
I've had so many ideas that I would want to do or I'd love to do for a competition piece, but I just know they're so far out of my range, I'd never be able to do them, that I haven't even tried. Like, I've thought of, that'd be an amazing idea, but I just know it's never going to happen because I don't have that ability.
Guess don't. But I think the important thing there is don't be sad about that as well.
Oh no, yeah, it's
manage your expectations.
Yeah, and you can still come up with really good ideas. Like, you can enter it. It doesn't have to be like, because if you think about it, there's a few competition entries that you think of over the years that were like groundbreaking or so different that not everyone's going to come up with them. Like, I'm thinking, like, The Last Light with
Roman Lepat.
His concept for The Last Light was so groundbreaking because no one had ever done that before. Like, not everyone's going to come up with one of them at every competition. Like, it would look amazing if that happened, but it doesn't happen all the time. So if there's a concept that you've got, like something like that, and you have real faith in the fact that it could be groundbreaking, then yeah, by all means, absolutely try and do it. But like, for me, knowing that of my ability to maybe not produce it to the level that would do it justice, I would stay away from it. I keep the idea, so one day maybe I'll go back to it and think, oh, I can do that now. Let's have a go at it. But yeah, if I can't do it to do it to the level that I'd be happy with it and do the idea justice, I won't do the idea.
Interesting. Very nice. Yeah, man, that Last Light. Yeah.
Oh, honestly,
I'm a massive Roman fanboy, so yeah.
It's one of those entries that the first time you see it, you're like, holy shit, why did I not come up with that idea?
He sold it a while back, and I wish I bought it.
Yeah, lucky fucker whoever ended up with that. Kane's just said something interesting in the chat, talking about the conversions and things. So he's currently working on the new Cruel Boys Killer Turkey. I think that's its actual name. And he doesn't like all the brands that are on the skin, so he's removing those and filling them in. Did you did something like that, didn't you, Andy, with that Zinch Ogroid model? Did you not fill his things in and paint them in, or am I imagining that?
I actually didn't in the end because I didn't think I had the skill to do it well enough, which is what we just said.
Right.
But perhaps I would have liked to. But actually, they're okay in the end. But I have filled in stuff loads of times in the past. But
because to show off your paint better, right?
I think sometimes there's stuff in the sculpt that hinders you. Sigvold's got sculpted detail. That was an example. So get rid of detail on the cloaks. I don't like the sculpted on detail on cloaks. I think it ruins what you can do, like potential. So that's the sort of thing I would always get rid of. But yeah, definitely think you can make things easier for you to paint, because at the end of the day, sometimes they're going to sculpt stuff to make it easier for the masses, right? And then for a
and to look good on the table too, right? There's a difference. With that, isn't there? Some stuff effects look cool sometimes on a speed painted army, don't they? But
I think it's like
more like the cloaks, right? With the Rich, with the details.
I think again, it just depends on what the bits you're taking off are. Like, if it's details on a cloak that you're then going to maybe add more to, or add a freehand to, or add a replacement, I don't think it's a problem. But like, I mean, it's a bit of a silly example, but say for instance you were painting an ultramarine and you carved off every U on the model and didn't replace it with anything. Yeah, you didn't replace it with anything.
That's how I'd want to paint one.
Yeah, that's not necessary. And you didn't freehand it or put transfers or whatever it is on it. That I don't think would necessarily be something that would be a smart tactic. But if you're taking a little bit away, or you're sculpting or covering a little bit up to then maybe do a little bit more to it, I think is a good idea. It just depends what you want to add.
Yeah, the cloak's a really good one, isn't it, Andy? Actually, that's because that's something we've seen really ramp up in the last, say, 3 years, 4 years, maybe. It went from, it'd be good for a sort of quote unquote average painter to like just bit of wash and that would pick that detail out nicely, wouldn't it? But if you're trying to paint it like a piece of cloth, then it's sort of difficult. It just gets in the way, right?
Yeah, it really does. And it's so hard to get rid of.
Yeah,
it's a shame as well because the cloaks so often really do elevate. They make things very heroic, don't they? They give tons of dynamism to a model.
Hero.
Yeah, that's a shame. Well, I think brilliant chat there. That was really, really interesting to hear your thoughts on it. As I say, I'm going to pick your brains a lot more over the coming months with the competition painting series, especially as the competition season hopefully kicks in and we can talk about it, and we'll get some of our friends on as well to talk that are notable within that community and see if we can find any little nuggets of them. But let's move on to the final segment of the show, if you can, Matt. So this is where we take a look at what the hashtag paint cultists have been up to. So hashtag paint cultists, it's a hashtag we've been using mainly on Instagram. It's on a couple of the other platforms, but Instagram's where people have really taken to it. Got thousands and thousands of models on there now. Plethora of different painting styles. It's just really, really enjoyable. If you want to see something that maybe doesn't come up in your feed normally, definitely recommend going and checking it out. I've been through and picked out just a handful just to show off and show the guys and draw their attention to. But it's a very good way to waste a significant amount of time now. A bit of scrolling through the hashtag paint cultists on Insta. So what have we got up first, Matt? Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
You mentioned earlier, Rich, about sometimes you see a model from a different angle, and that's how you convey it. This is a great example, right? I'm not particularly taken by this Eldar plane, never have been. Although I've got a couple of boxes of little Eldar planes over there that I'm really keen to paint like this. It's just wicked. It's just really nice. Like it's lovely colours. It's so fun to see it from a different angle. It just really jumps out at me.
Yeah, really clean, really well done, neat. It's really nice.
I think that'd be a really fantastic looking army if it's all painted to that standard.
Load of big Wraith units with that would look awesome.
I think as well it's the colours of Beal Tan, right? But not necessarily the style. It's got the slashes that you associate maybe with one of the other ones. Which is kind of cool. So that was a good one.
Very cool. Good start.
Right.
More Eldar, please.
More Eldar. Don't think there is. This one's for me mainly pure selfishness. I am this fucking close to like doing some Lord of the Rings stuff. I've got to stay focused, right? I have to stay focused. Like I want to get the 2 projects finished this year, but Lord of the Rings just keeps poking me. If
they do a new box set for that new TV show, Steeler, we should do it.
Mate, next year's fine. Next year will be fine. If I'm still fancying it next year, I'll do it. But this, I think, is one of the best of the minis. It's obviously the best character. It's beautifully painted. I always loved seeing the Lord of the Rings category at Golden Demon because it didn't tend to be, certainly when I was going, it didn't tend to be that heavily populated, but the average quality was outstanding.
It's so goddamn small.
Yeah. And this, it's just
it's a really great paint job.
I haven't found. There isn't much at the minute, right? There's one project I'm working on early next year that's got me really juiced, and I know I'm going to push myself on, and I'm going to progress with. But there's very few models I've seen that have made me want to paint just purely to paint them, to improve my painting, to try and do my best. But it's something like this, I think, is what I fancy. Just a delicate little simple, limited palette. Just I don't know, man. Something about it, and obviously Gandalf's rad. So
Dumbledore is.
so
It's the original Dumbledore.
You're a wizard, Harry.
What's next, Matt? Oh, this was cool. So this person had mentioned that they had done these pretty much back to back.
Yeah.
And just really enjoyed doing them. I know you've done the one on the left, Andy, before, haven't you? You painted that model before. Yeah, just really nice to see. Are they both the same producers or
different manufacturers?
Different manufacturers.
One's Black Sun and one's Black Crow, maybe.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
But I really dig the effect of the armor on the one coming down the steps.
Yeah.
It's from Sergio. Sergio did a bonkers paint job.
Right.
He did.
Right.
Like really bonkers. And I think that some people have emulated that, and quite rightly so.
That's cool.
If you want to learn non-metallics, emulate that job from Sergio, because he really did quite a crazy job on that. I think it's called like the Death Avenger or something. I don't know. Anyway, Sergio's paint job's bonkers on that one.
Nice.
Yeah, very cool.
So yeah, just and again, like these models don't really tickle me, but again, the hashtags meant I've sat and looked at them for a little bit and actually quite enjoyed it. Whereas I wouldn't have necessarily bothered following someone who paints a lot of this type of model.
Hankering for a 75.
So yeah, what we got next? I think there's a couple more, isn't there, Matt?
There's a few more, yeah.
Yeah.
Is our man from Down Under. Still
Adding
going
to my favorite
strong
army
with this wonderful Thousand Suns army.
Models.
How I don't understand how he's stayed so. I mean, obviously, I don't understand because I can't focus on anything. Like, he's been doing this for how many years, and he just keeps adding to it. It's just the best quality.
Yeah, it's about. I wouldn't say it's that long, mate. I think it's about 2 years at tops, I'd have thought.
Oh,
but
really?
I guess he's had big armies before as well, Adam. But I guess when you're able to elevate your skill set, and I suppose if you do it across the army, then you solidify it, right? That repetition, and there must be massive. Let's say even if the last model he paints maybe looks 5% better than the first one he paints in the army, so it still looks like an army. I bet you he's a lot quicker at painting it as well. So you've got that evolution, haven't you, of improvement as well. But I am really looking forward to seeing these in the flesh one day. When we're hopefully
still my favorite army.
When we're next, yeah. Well, I'll take an extra bag, mate.
Yeah, I'll just mug him.
Yeah, be fine.
Fine.
Don't say it on the internet. But yeah, it's wicked. But I had to stick it in. So
great choice.
We love him. Good job, Adam. And I think there's one more, maybe. So this this tickles my balls.
Right.
This is a hobby chum of mine, Toby. He's a wonderful artist. Has some amazing ideas for things, and he's just got this hideous ogre destruction type army project going on, and he'll just knock something like this out like in the week. Like he'll be like, "Oh, I built this and painted this," and it's just he's the type of artist that I wish I could be like. I wish I had that innate whatever it is he's got. It's that, the desk is just a hot mess. It's able to pull the different materials together and just create something just really, really cool and evocative and just creepy. So yeah, I enjoyed that one a lot.
Great job.
But yeah,
That's
it's
going out the mouth.
It's just minging, isn't it? Yeah,
it's horrible. That's the stuff of the nightmares.
That's what I want to play though. I want to play an army like that with Ponzi elves. We're like, oh, we're so pretty, and I want to play something evil.
Gribbly. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's legit then.
But yeah, Toby's relatively. Yeah, we only got him on Instagram less than a year ago, but I would really recommend that account. I really enjoy it. Is that it, Matt, or have I got?
No, there's more.
For all this, look, I can never remember.
That is sick.
I don't normally pick favorites. I just pick what's jumped out to me, like as I'm scrolling through. We had another version of this model a few shows ago, maybe a couple of months back.
Is it a Hate Mini?
No, it's not a Hate Mini, but it works perfectly, right, for Hate.
Who makes it?
I think it's Black Sun. Have a chat about it and I'll find out for you.
Wow, I love it.
It's got like the Predator skin sort of style.
Yeah. You know how you were talking about your Ponzi elves? Yeah, your Ponzi elves, Drew. That's what I'd want to fight them with.
I know, and it'd be great seeing these guys lose, wouldn't it? That should be the best.
But it wouldn't matter, right? That's why playing baddies is the best, because you just don't care when you lose.
No, well, I've got my baddies. I've got my first baddie army coming, haven't I? Doing Chaos Minus. Can you believe it?
That is true.
Yeah, that's a fantastic model, and the paint job's great. I love the blood effect on the sword. I think it's really, really nice. Really great composition.
Rather than an effect that everyone does.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I love it is it's that, you know, when you first look at it and you go, oh, that's pretty cool. And then you look a little bit more and you find something else, and you can keep looking and looking and finding just more wonderful sort of things about him. Black Sun. Yeah,
that's great.
But yeah, it fits perfectly with the Cool Mini or Not Adrian Smith Chronicles of Hate minis.
Yeah.
But I don't often want to have someone else's mini, but I'd love that on the desk just to look at.
That's right up my street. That is. It's an angry fat dude.
So I mean, lockdown's not treated him well, has it?
No.
Or has it?
He's, has it? He's just living his his
It looks like he's having a great time.
I love it. Love it so much. Lovely. Right.
Last one. Oh, I think this one's for you, isn't it, Andy? Yes. This one just caught my eye. Actually, I think Luca was in the chat earlier. Is this 75 mil? It must be 75 mil, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be. I really like historical 75 mil stuff. I think I've come to this conclusion. I don't necessarily like the fantasy 75 mil stuff, but some of the historicals they're just lovely, and what a lovely composition, right?
Great colours. My favourite part is actually the shield, like the shading on the non-gold bit. It's actually really subtle but really nice. But that light at the top compared to the bottom is really natural. It's not like flat. It's not exaggerated. It's very, very good.
Yeah. Love the shield design and the picture of it. It's great.
It's just like, and the crest replicates the wing, doesn't it, on the shield and stuff. It's just it's just I like it. Just caught my. I'd sent everything over to Matt, and then this just caught my eye. I was like, I'll chuck this in because I think, I'd love it if people watch and perhaps we can show them the odd mini that they've never come across before from a system or a manufacturer or a scale or whatever, and go and explore them. And a lot of these smaller, I mean, like ourselves, these smaller manufacturers of minis, it's if you dig them, go and buy them, because there's a direct like, oh my god, someone's bought the mini. It's not just another Space Marine, to make the shareholders happy kind of thing. So it's really, really, really lovely. And as I said, that like months ago now, it got to the point where there was far too many for me to show off every couple of weeks. But yeah, I think that's a particularly good crop. This week. Really good picks. So so I think we'll call it there, chaps. I think we covered everything we wanted to. As usual, if you guys want to get in touch with us about topics for the show, things we talked about you'd like us to go on about more, or other things we perhaps haven't touched on, then we're on all the usual social medias, and you've got the website and all the rest of it. Search Cult of Paint. It's not hard to get hold of us. But thanks ever so much to the chat for joining us. As usual, it just gets better and better. And I think I'm getting a little bit better now at keeping up and trying to spot the questions. I might have a look at this. I think there's something you can do, can't you, where you can highlight questions or something. I'll have a little look into that and as well. And again, if you're watching this back a little bit later on YouTube, thanks for watching. Give us a like and a comment and all the rest of it, and we'll keep doing it. Thanks again, chaps, for joining me. it's not over by a long shot. I'm going to pick your three brains an awful lot more about competitive painting, because I think there's some proper nuggets in there that we can all benefit from. But we will see you in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks for joining us. That'll be a hobby hangout, and we'll see you then. Cheers.
Bye.
Peace.